conversation.
I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Be a dog.
This is the Rob Dibble Show.
Show me the money. And everybody's moving conference to conference. We talked about this a couple of years ago. UConn, even though they went back to the Big East, if you could get to the Big 12, $66 million a year, and it'll go up depending on the better TV deals and packages you get. And they're adding on all the time. Streaming, Amazon, different games of the week games and stuff like that nationally, going to add more money into the pool that gets divvied up equally amongst the teams, whether it's 14 or 16 or 18. So if you're UConn, you want to go to one of these super conferences because there's going to be maybe three. And the Pac-12 right now is the latest conference to be losing teams in droves because when it came out what the TV deal was going to pay these schools, teams jumped ship like Oregon, Stanford's looking to jump. What was it? Washington jumped. I mean, they wasted no time getting these invites from these conferences. That was pretty much already done. And as soon as that came in, then they were like, okay.
It's still going to be tough for me.
It's painful because there's pride at stake.
Oh, for sure.
They want to stay
and
in their
just
conferences.
like for fan bases, and I know we're going to deal with this here in this neck of the woods, is just the nostalgia factor of some of these matchups.
Get over that, man.
It's tough, but you will get over it. You will. There's so many different things. Like people still tell me in the Midwest areas that I'm from, like, man, I'm still getting used to Penn State being in the Big Ten. Like, true. Wow, really? But, there's some of those rivalries that, like Nebraska. I always thought when Nebraska came over to the Big Ten, like, man, you're really bucking the system against Texas and against Oklahoma and against Kansas and all these schools that you're used to having these major rivalries with. Okay, bring it on. And I could even say that a lot of the rivalries haven't come to fruition in the new conferences.
Right.
Maryland's trying to get something started with Penn State, and Penn State's like, yeah, that's fun and all, but we're not interested in being your rival. Rutgers has no friends. Rutgers has no friends, but they don't care.
They don't care because they make the same as Michigan or Penn State or Iowa. Mm-hmm. Rutgers gets the same check.
Yep. And, that's what it's really all about. And I would hate I hate that it is, but that's the reality of the situation. For UConn in particular, if Florida State thinks that they're in a crisis because they're not making $100 million and only making $70, what is UConn in? With the deficit that athletic department is state funded, by the way, and I hear this all the time whenever any kind of money gets spent. I understand that, but you got to spend money to make money in this world of college athletics. And if we are not going to be on the same boat as Cincinnati, UCF, Boston College, maybe how stinky would it be if UMass gets picked up before UConn? That is a stinky situation. I don't want to have any part of it. I think the ACC still makes a lot of sense, and they're going to be going through some turmoil here in the next couple of days. But the timeline's getting crunched. Everybody wants to have this stuff done before kids show up on campus, and we're not even having these discussions during football season. So maybe the next 48 hours, man, some more movement, some more shoes may get dropped, and more openings for potential falling spots for UConn.
Well, and we talked about this earlier, that the ACC contract that Florida State is complaining about runs through 2036.
That's rough, even for a school that's just getting in there.
So you're just getting in there, and now you're like, oh, my God, we can't get out of this. What'd you say, $120 million penalty to try to get out of it if you want to get out and go to the SEC or go to the Big Ten or go to the Big 12. Listen, geographically, ACC makes sense, but $66 million a year in the Big 12 makes sense fiscally.
That's easy to make some private flights and some good hotel rooms.
And so when you're talking about basketball, but you're also talking about baseball, but you're talking about keeping these other sports during COVID, so many colleges lost sports during COVID because they couldn't afford them. UConn's still an independent. They're not even in the ACC anymore. They're an independent football team. So when you're talking about expenses, recruiting, bigger, better facilities, every 5-10 years, $66 million a year goes a long way. It pays for a lot of bills. And so I know a lot of people, and myself, I mean, listen, I'm a romantic. I would love to have them play Big East basketball for the rest of my life. I mean, my wife's an alum. But at the same time, I want their bills to be paid. It's painful to live in this state and, them say we have a $40 or $60 million sports department deficit. Well, a lot of these other schools don't. No. And when you see, I mean, just seeing like the Oregon, sports facility, or Alabama or Clemson or there's so many, Michigan, Ohio State, and I've been in a bunch of them. It blows your mind because I had one of the worst when I was in the major leagues with the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, yeah.
To see what these young people are allowed to do to train, that's what you want for UConn. That's what you want for a Division I school and a football program. So if you want to get to the big time, which, listen, I love Jim Moore Jr. and I love UConn football, they've got a long way to go. And a lot of it starts with their facilities, helping in recruiting 4- and 5-star players. You got to get to a bigger conference. You can't be an independent school and get this is like musical chairs. And if you don't get a chair, you're going to be way left out, and it's going to just get worse.
The other thing too, it's a little bit of an element. I think, like you're saying, millions of dollars will take care of this. But there's a reason UCLA and USC are going in together. There's a reason Oregon and Washington are going in together. There was a reason Boston College, Syracuse, and Pittsburgh became a pod going into the ACC together. These traveling partners is kind of the phrase that's been used for a
travel
quarter of a century. When I can go, let's just take Wisconsin volleyball here. I'm going to go to LA, and not only am I going to play USC, I'm going to play UCLA on a Friday, Sunday, and then I can go back home. So you kind of knock out 2 schools with one trip. That saves your school's money, especially on those non-revenue-driven sports. For UConn in the Big 12, West Virginia might be your closest traveling partner. Obviously, we got a relationship with Cincinnati because of the American. That's a close one as well. That's tough for all the other members of that conference to sign off of for UConn. But again, like you said, $20 million extra dollars may take care of that extra travel for all your other conference partners. ACC, you're obviously in the mix of a bunch of traveling partners. I mean, Boston College, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, right there. And we'll see what happens with the bottom of that conference. And I'm not saying record bottom. I'm saying in the South, Florida State, Clemson, Miami. If those teams leave, the ACC better be on the horn to David Benedict and the powers that be at UConn, because I think that they are now shaking in their boots like the Pac-12. They do not want to become what the Pac-12 became today. And you see how fast that happened. Colorado left the Pac-12 like a week ago. And now all of a sudden they're down to 6 teams.
Big Ten, this is from 2 days ago. Big Ten reached a 7-year, $7 billion deal with Fox and CBS and NBC.
Yep.
The Big 12 secured a $2.3 billion 6-year partnership with ESPN and Fox. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about some serious money. It's just like the deals you do with the NCAA college basketball tournament and stuff like that. This is what these networks want. This is the content. Football is king. And I prefer college football, even though I'm a big Cowboys fan or NFL, and I love Sundays, Mondays and Thursdays now. Saturdays are amazing. These are young men that are 18 to 20 something, and it's laying it all out there for a chance to get to another level. And it's amazing to watch that. And so there's just so much money. And I'm not just talking about the travel and that it's the kickback with the recruitment to be a part of this. Even Rutgers gets better players because of what conference they're now in.
Their basketball programs really made some strides in the last couple of years.
Because
really made some strides.
If you're on TV, you're on these different networks. That's what kids want to be. If you don't know your kid and you don't know your kid is on Instagram, Snapchat, everything that they could possibly get their hands on.
They're already on TV.
Why
would I want to go to a school that's not? I can do that with my phone.
Exactly. So these people, the next generation want to be, and they know they're going to be seen depending on what program they pick. And you just had some great athlete baseball player take North Carolina. McKnight, this kid I was reading about, I'm like, oh my God, this kid's unbelievable. And so that's such a coup for away from like LSU, Arizona, USC. I mean, so when you see some of this stuff like that, a lot of it has to do with the facilities, has to do with the academics. But it's also being on television. A lot of these people want to be on television, see their kids if they can't be there in person.
Another part of this equation that could move the conversation one way or another is the college football playoff. When we're going to add teams and now we're going to delete conferences. So where are your automatic bids coming from? If one of these conferences gets multiple automatic bids or an automatic bid, and a conference does not have an automatic bid, and you have a school in that conference without an automatic bid, such as a UCF a couple of years ago, with Cincinnati a couple of years ago, they are going to find a home that has an automatic bid, like UCF now and Cincinnati now. So if the college football playoff changes in a way where it can give other conferences possible spots or less spots or no spots, that could really change where schools want to be as well. Because still, as much as being in that conference to get that big check is one thing, selling your gate and your merch and everything else with your football program is a whole nother bill, a whole nother bank account. It's not even talking about your TV deals. It's not even talking about your network deal. Just talking about brass tacks of what your football team brings in.
And by the way, this is all speculation. I mean, they've got to call, David Benedict first, and then he's got to run it up the flagpole, and then the school has to agree to go into any of these conferences. This is just us saying that, we've been talking about this for years, not just about UConn, but we knew that this was coming, and you knew that, the not just the TV packages, but you also the competition. The getting into a super conference as opposed to, like you said, what'd you say? There's 6 teams left in the Pac-12?
To believe, if we count them up, yeah. Stanford,
that's crazy.
States, Oregon State, Washington State. That's 4. Arizona State, Utah, 6.
That's as opposed to what it used to be. This is one of the strongest conferences in the country.
You got to imagine Utah, Stanford, those two first and foremost, on the phone with somebody right now. I don't know about Oregon State, Washington State. Good luck. God bless you.
So Arizona's gone.
Yep.
Colorado's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon's gone.
Yep.
Stanford's about to go. Washington's gone.
And don't forget UCLA, USC.
USC going next year.
Bye-bye.
Wow. And like we just talked about, though, with trying to leave the ACC because the contract runs through 2036, going to cost your school $120 million. Some of these conferences are getting nearly $100 million per school per year, and that's not that hard to get out from underneath if you really want to go, and the conference wants you.
And like you're saying, like there's still a long way to go. If we're talking about UConn, there's still a long way to go. However, these presidents in the Big Ten got a phone call at 8 a.m. We all need to be on a call 8:30. They were all on that call at 8:30. They made this Oregon-Washington stuff happen overnight. Like, this stuff is happening very fast. So this weekend, if you're a part of any kind of school that might be possibly finding a new home for a conference, keep your phone on, because we might have to make something happen on Saturday or Sunday.
All right, let's switch gears to the NFL. Obviously, we had the Browns playing last night against the New York Jets.
How you feeling your Cowboys, man? A lot of trouble in Big D, I hear.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you don't want one of your best offensive linemen not even close to being signed.
I think that's still the biggest issue they're not talking about there. I could care less about Trayvon Diggs barking at Dak or anything that's happened in practice.
Nah.
What is going on with Mr. Martin?
That's one of the biggest things, because I think just watching that game last night, all I can think about now is how much we talk about offense and defensive line. And I'm just reading this player for the Minnesota Vikings, defensive lineman James Lynch, done for 2023, torn ACL. I mean, these big nasties, man, the last thing that you need is a dude going down as, got a new Brian Flores is your new defensive coordinator, and he was going to be an unrestricted free agent next year.
I do have some news for the Saints fans and also for you Colts fans. A lot of people don't think about Chris Lammons being a part of this situation, but New Orleans Saints Alvin Kamara and also Chris Lammons, cornerback of the Indianapolis Colts, met with Roger Goodell for a Vegas fight that happened back in 2022. Don't forget, that's a full year and a half ago. And they're finally getting suspended. They're on a 3-game, they're calling it a ban. Why is it a 3-game ban and not suspension?
I don't think you can go anywhere near the facilities, and I think you don't get a paycheck.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. So there you go.
Banished.
That's big news for the Saints.
It's huge. It's huge.
That's going to be a rough start for a new coach down there in New Orleans.
Well, what did you think about the Jets last night? They're right now.
I wish
not
Zach
gonna
Wilson
show you
would
a
have
whole
got
lot.
more time. I don't know why Zach Wilson wasn't unleashed a little bit and just let him
You're
play.
scared about the age of one Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I thought the Jets D looked decent.
We'll get somebody from the Jets on next week. How about that? We'll talk about how many reps, first team reps is Zach Wilson.
I want to see that offensive line's first team really get pressured. It's still, a lot of time to go. Still got 4 or 5 weeks before we actually play real ones. But from last night, the one things I learned is Kellen Mond will not be starting for any team that I root for. He was
adequate. He was 13 for 19. It's hard to tell how much defense the Jets actually threw up in his face. But yeah, the one pick was pretty brutal. I'm sure they'll replay that in the video room an awful lot.
The one guy I'd have to say did his job was that Greg the Leg Zuerlein, the kicker from the Jets.
Oh, you're actually giving a kicker a little bit of love?
What?
He is the leg. I mean, he is a different tier of kicker than the rest of those soccer players. But he didn't make a tackle. He didn't really do much other than his job. So, but he did that.
3 for 3, made 10 points.
There's some deep ones too.
Yeah.
There's some deep ones.
54. It's a good. I mean, of anybody that earned their pay,
Sit him down. He's
Yeah.
done. You don't need him anymore. Let him
kick in practice. Let him stand over there and sit on his helmet.
and then he'll do the film. That's what he does. Do the film. If anybody needs any water, Greg, go ahead and pass it out.
So if you're Cade York, are you nervous today because you missed a field goal?
Oh, I saw that.
Ofer
Yeah.
did have 3 extra points, so 3 for 3.
Doesn't matter. He's fired. We can find him anywhere. Soccer field near you. Anywhere.
About Bubba Bolden.
What did he do?
He intercepted the pass.
Oh, he
Right
got a
to
pick
him.
too?
Yeah.
He's all right. I don't know. You don't learn much, man. Not from the first one. And I was kind of disappointed in the lack. I don't know why I am. Maybe because I was just so geeked up for football.
I'm old enough to remember when they actually had to play at least 2 quarters of these games because those second and third teamers were on the bubble and they were going to smack each other around. So at least second half, we're going to get some action.
We get the first piece of Patriot action on Thursday next week. Texans, Patriots, that will start the week of preseason off. Your Vikings play the Seahawks on Thursday night as well. Packers, Bengals, Giants, Lions, Falcons, Dolphins, Steelers, Bucks, Commanders, Browns, all on Friday. The late one Friday night, Broncos, Cardinals. Bills will be taking on the Colts that Saturday. Jets don't get back until Saturday against, my Panthers. And then your Cowboys play the Jags that weekend as well.
All right. Next week, some big news. Home Run Derby X will be over at the Dunk.
Oh, yeah.
And then don't forget, August 30th, there's still some tickets available. Rob Dibble Bobblehead Night. First 1,000 people through the door get a bobblehead. Tim Restall is the president. He's going to come on and tell you all the other news that's going on with the Hartford Yard Goats next.